Tommy was coming home from work. It was Friday, and the office had a shortened day, which meant that now he had a lot of free time to spend. For a long time now, he wanted to start watching a new TV series that his coworkers were always talking about. Tommy lived alone. His parents had been dead for several years. As Tommy approached his front yard, it was darker and darker. All the colorfulness that was downtown where he worked had vanished without a trace. The bedroom suburbs where Tommy lived was dark and uncomfortable. Dull and grey monoliths towered over the neighborhood. And it was so nice to get off the bus as he stopped and walked towards home. And now he didn't want to do that at all. There was nowhere to go. This was where he had been living all his life, and he couldn't move to another neighborhood. Tommy was not a millionaire, but he wanted to be one, so he could leave this gray area. As the guy was walking home, he noticed something strange. Normally, it wouldn't take him more than 10 minutes to get there, but now it was taking him a lot longer than that, and he couldn't see his house. Taking out his phone, he checked the time. He had been walking for half an hour. There was really something wrong. Tommy hadn't noticed how he had gotten to the next yard. There were a lot of such identical bedroom neighborhoods, so it was easy to get lost. In front of the guy there was a wall of high-rise buildings. It looked as if the houses had shifted with each other to form a barrier without a single gap. There were no exits. Even the entrance door were nowhere to be found. Only some windows had lights on. There were no exits, not even the entrance doors to the building. Tommy froze in the place. Something had definitely gone wrong here. This wasn't his backyard. Tommy walked in the opposite direction, and the next thing he saw was a huge space. As Tommy walked, he realized he was in some kind of maze. No exits. There were no playgrounds or cars here, no people either. Ahead of the guy saw a standing door. It was in the middle and looked completely out of place, detached from reality. Tommy tried to understand what he saw. The version with a dream he immediately discarded. No illegal substances or alcohol. The guy had never tried in his life. What could it be then? This thought did not give the rest to the young man's imagination. He pulled his cell phone out of his pocket again. There was no connection at all. Trying to turn on the camera, he took a couple of pictures and video. Looking at them, he realized that his movement was real. It was unlikely that the gadget would take a picture of what only a human could see. Tommy walked over to the wall. It was perfectly smooth to touch. The guy knocked on the windows. There was a light on in it, but the room was not visible because of the thick curtains. The guy tried again, but no one answered the knock. Several minutes were spent trying to call out, but there was no one around. Tommy walked back to the lawn door. He walked around it. The handle with the lock was only on one side. Cautiously touching it, the guy looked around one more time. He decided to see what was behind the door. It could be a way out. Tommy opened the door. There was nothing behind it that would help him to get out of the strange labyrinth. The only thing the young man saw was a vast desert. The guy saw a dark world. A strong wind was kicking up dust. Lightning was coming from the thick clouds. Tommy stood and watched. He couldn't do anything. He just kept watching. Suddenly, he heard an angry scream approaching. The sound came from the door. The guy thought it was an invisible creature, and it was getting closer. Tommy's hands were trembling. It was clear that the creature was not happy with the man, and now it wanted to get the guy. The scream got louder and louder. The young man quickly closed the door. The guy heard a knock on the door. From surprise, Tommy fell to the ground. The monster was trying to open the door. With difficulty getting to his feet, he began to run away. The creature started kicking in the doors. The guy wanted only one thing: to survive. He didn't know what was behind the door, but he was sure that the monster wanted to kill him. Tommy was far away. He stopped in one of the corridors and sat on the ground, leaning his back against the building to rest. The guy tried to remember how he got there. After a while, he stood up and pulled a smartphone out of his pocket. The young man tried to call someone, but to no avail. Tommy didn't know what to do. Holding his head in his hands, he thought about how to get out of the maze. Suddenly, Tommy heard a scream. It was a creature that was screaming outside the door. The guy slowly sank to the ground. He tried to get up, but he couldn't. His legs wouldn't move. You can see it here, shaking with fear. You have to run. With these thoughts, the young man got up and began to explore the endless corridors. The guy came to dead ends. Whether he was approaching the monster or getting away from it was unknown. Tommy went to one of the walls of the corridor and wrapped his jacket around his arm and started hitting the windows. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break the glass. Suddenly, the young man heard a loud scream. The monster was close, very close. The guy started to run, but the entity did not lag behind. At one point, the guy got fed up with it and decided to hide. Going to a dead end, he hid and waited. So as not to give himself away, he covered his mouth with the palm of his hand, did not move, and almost did not breathe. He heard footsteps, stopped at the dead end where Tommy was hiding, but she didn't go inside. Cautiously, peeking out from around the corner, he saw her long black tail, the rest of her body hidden behind the wall. The creature left. The young man waited a while and peeked out from behind the corner. He saw the creature, disappeared into the wall of the labyrinth. The boy ran into the opposite direction. He gave himself away and the creature ran after him. As he got closer, the guy couldn't feel it breathing down the back of his neck. Tommy had no more strength to run. He fell down and heard the monster screaming about him, which soon became silent. The boy lay there breathing heavily. Death was not coming. Tommy slowly turned his head and realized that he was in his apartment. Checked the time on his phone. It had been an hour since he'd last picked it up. The guy looked out the window. Outside there was a yard where children were playing and adults were walking. Everything was normal. The guy went to take a shower, then went to cook dinner. With a full plate, sat in front of the TV, turned on the series. While watching, he heard some extraneous sound, paused the video and listened, putting the food on the table as he tried to focus on the source of the sound. The front door handle twitched and then turned as if someone was trying to open it from the other side. Tommy looked through the peephole but saw no one. As soon as he stepped back, the knob turned a second time, and then the same scream that belonged to the creature from the maze was heard. The last thing Tommy saw was the heavy door being ripped from its hinges along with chunks of the wall, accompanied by a wild roar.